Hello, I'm Jairo Espinosa, and this is Meta. Matatandaan ang taong 2016 bilang taon kung kailan tila nagbago ang lahat sa social media. Naging mahirap at mabangis ang mga usapan dahil sa mga pagkakaiba-iba, hindi lang sa politika, kundi pati na rin sa mga pinanghahawakan na katotohanan. Ginatugan ito ng pagdami ng mga trolls na binayaran ng ilang mga politiko para magpakalat ng maling impormasyon at propaganda sa kanilang pabor. So, let's talk about social media. The Philippines has been recognized as the social media capital of the world. As of January 2022, there were 76 million internet users in the Philippines, and there were 92 million social media users, indicating that at least some people maintain multiple accounts on social media networks. Facebook is the most popular site with almost 84 million users, followed by YouTube with 56.5 million users. Internet users in the Philippines between 16 and 64 years old spent an average of 10 hours and 27 minutes online every day. 4 hours and 6 minutes were spent on social media. A study by the Ateneo School of Government found that 78.8% of Filipinos get their news from Facebook, compared to 66% from television and 56.7% from YouTube. So social media is important in keeping Filipinos informed. Pero, sa panahon ngayon, nagiging laganap ang mga trolls na lumalason sa mga impormasyon na nakukuha natin lalo sa social media. Ang mga trolls ay ang mga gumagamit ng internet at social media para sadyang manginis, manggalit at mannilang ng mga tao.
So, marami kaming services Boosting, basically that's number one. Defense, fortify. We don't really do negative. May set of ibang naman. Operation. But this is the good one.
Sa ilalim niya, meron siyang 500 trolls. Ang bawat isa may 100 hanggang 200 na mga fake account.
Because basically, I do a lot of operations na hindi mo naman pwedeng ipagmalaki. We do a lot of special ops against yung mga enemies, kung sino man yung kliyente na gusto. Ang daling makaloko sa social media. People don't think now most people don't think. They don't Pag nakita
Masaya si Honey Grace kapag may pumapatol sa kanya.
Siyempre, feeling ko, ang powerful ko. Kasi, siyempre, kapag nasa akin yung finance parang, parang ma-influence mo yung perception nila.
And they attack in very personal ways. Death threats, rape threats. Again, the weaponization of hatred, I think, is what you're seeing there.
Dahil sa mga trolls na nagpapakalat ng maling impormasyon, maaaring maimpluwensyahan ng mali ang mga pananaw at paniniwala ng mga tao, lalo sa mga usaping politikal at panglipunan. Ang trolls ay ginagamit ng mga politiko para palakasin ang tinig ng sumusuporta sa kanila at atakihin ang kanilang mga kritiko. Nagbubunga ito ng hati-hating lipunan at pagbagsak ng tiwala sa mga eksperto tulad ng doktor, siyentipiko at historiador. Sa maraming bansa, ang mga troll ay nagdulot ng takot, karahasan, at minsan umaabot sa kamatayan. Some people choose to avoid toxic conversations by unfollowing and unfriending those whose beliefs and opinions differ from their own. Sometimes, this is necessary for one's mental health. How does one continue to converse with someone who doesn't just disagree with your opinions, but also disagrees with the facts? How does one converse with someone who differs with you not only in politics, but in morals as well? Kaya lang, ang pag-unfriend at pag-unfollow ng mga kakilala sa social media ay maaaring magkulong sa atin sa tinatawag na echo chambers. Ang echo chamber ay nalilikha kapag ang nakikita natin ng mga pananaw at pagbabalita ayun lamang umuulit at nagpapatibay sa mga bagay na pinapaniwalaan na natin.
Sa echo chamber, mas madaling kumalat ang fake news. Nahuhubog ng fake information ang paniniwala ng mga tao, kaya nahihirapan ang mga taong hiwalay ang fake sa fact.
Meron din tayong tinatawag na political polarization na maaaring maging epekto ng pagkakaroon ng homogeneous worldviews. Ito yung pagiging sobrang hiwa-hiwalay na ng mga tao, no? Sobrang opposing na nila pagdating sa political beliefs nila or dahil sa political beliefs nila. At mas nagiging sarado yung pag-iisip natin pagdating sa iba't ibang bagay. So dahil tayo ay isang democracy, no? So in democratic state, hindi ito maganda, no? Kasi gusto natin na pag-uusapan natin ayos yung mga bagay-bagay.
Ang pagkakaroon ng echo chamber ay issue ng kawalan ng tiwala sa mga impormasyon at tao na nanggagaling sa ibang panig sa atin. Sa loob ng echo chamber, madaling magpasa ng maling impormasyon na nasa panig na pinaniniwalaan natin. Habang tila, hindi naman tayo tinatablan ng mga impormasyon na pinapabulaanan ang mga gusto nating paniwalaan. Ang resulta nito ay watak-watak na lipunan na namumuhay sa kanya-kanyang realidad. Maraming Pilipino ang naniniwala na laganap ang maling impormasyon at fake news sa social media. Ngunit, marami din ang nahihirapan alamin ang totoo sa hindi.
Ang tinutukoy yata ng marami dito sa fake news ay yung mga nilalabas sa internet na akala mo totoong balita. Ang itsura ng fake news ay parang katulad din ng mga ibang website na talagang pinapatakbo ng mga journalists. Ang fake news sites nilalagay dyan dahil intentional na gusto nilang magpalaki ng isang reputasyon, magpalaki ng isang kandidato, magpasama ng iba.
Most Filipino students fail to recognize fake news on social media. This finding based on an online quiz by the Ateneo School of Government and Voces Filipinas. During the latest run, 6 out of 10 students belonged the What the Fake News Challenge.
51% o katumbas ng isa sa bawat dalawa sa adult population nahihirapan malaman kung alin sa mga nababasa nila sa traditional media at social media ang peke o hindi. Bata yan sa SWS survey na isinagawa mula December 12 to 16, 2021.
Malaki ang naging papel ng fake news nitong huling halalan kung saan nanalo bilang Pangulo si Bongbong Marcos na siyang pinaka-nakinabang sa pagkalat ng maling impormasyon.
We do have a disinformation problem. I would say one of the worst in the world. We're days away from elections. Just the fact that we were able to get a president into power almost solely on the investment they put into social media, and now we're about to get, the son of a former ousted dictator back into office because we have people believing that all of the issues held against them are fake.
We basically saw two main patterns. The first pattern was that we saw a conscious effort to anchor the discussion around former Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Most of the discussion that was anchored around him tried to achieve two things. First, they tried to shame the critics of former Senator Marcos. And then second, they tried to endear the public to Senator Ferdinand Marcos.
Out of the 336 fact checks, about 120 were related to the upcoming elections. And 52 of this was overwhelmingly related to Bongbong Marcos, and it either promoted him or tried to distort facts or make totally false claims about his family's ill-gotten wealth cases or the atrocities committed under the administration of his father, the late Victor Ferdinand Sr. So some of it, it concerned his Oxford education. It made false claims that he obtained a bachelor's degree. Some of it, it tries to push the narrative that the ill-gotten wealth cases against the Marcos family had no basis, that there was no evidence at all that supports this.
Pag hindi malaman ng mga tao ang katotohanan sa kasinungalingan, maaaring piliin na lang nila ang mas gusto nilang paniwalaan imbis na ibase sa ebidensya at datos. Marami ang nabibiktima ng maling impormasyon. Walang nakakahiya dito. Pero, Nagiging mali na kapag pinanghahawakan pa rin natin yon kahit iba ang sinasabi ng ebidensya at ng mga eksperto. It is good and necessary to hear the views and values from the other side. But it's a different matter when one side is full of disinformation. We should not engage with trolls and those who spread disinformation for personal and political gain. But we should remember that not everyone who shares fake news is a troll. To engage with the victims of disinformation, one must become a trustworthy source. Empathy is key here. It bears to start conversations with something you agree on, like wanting the best for the country. We should be intolerant of fake news and disinformation, but understanding of its victims. But the large majority of people on social media are those who do not actively seek out news and political views. They tend to avoid and ignore all politics and polarizing topics to maintain a bubble of good vibes only. They remain neutral on social and political issues to avoid arguments and disagreements. Some are completely apathetic to what is happening in the country. But I argue that neutrality and apathy in the face of disinformation and injustice is wrong. Apathy and neutrality permit lies to proliferate. They ignore the voices of the oppressed and the marginalized, and they allow the powerful to get away with abuse. So, this piece is for those who remain neutral, those who do not participate in the conversation. This is for those who are overwhelmed by the prevalence of fake news and disinformation on social media. This is for those who believe it's not worth following or posting on social media, or that social media is a lost cause. Your social media posts matter. Let me argue why. 1. It is important to inform the ignorant and the miseducated. Mahalaga na magbigay alam sa mga walang alam at sa mga mali ang alam. Living in an echo chamber can lead to a false sense of security and consensus. Since everyone is echoing your sentiments, it can lead to the impression that certain issues are common knowledge and that your perspective is held by the majority. That's why it comes as a surprise when we encounter people who are not aware that certain issues exist. Such occasions are disheartening. Ignorance is a dangerous thing in a democracy. Bad governments rely on the ignorance of its citizens to put in place abusive policies and practices. Ignorance leads one to believe that nothing is happening, or indeed that everything is all right. But it is important too to do our part to fight the spread of disinformation online. Verify information you read online. Amplify the voices of experts and other reliable sources of information. And, if you can, create content, however small, to counter disinformation.
While I say that we try to take down as fast as possible all of these harmful misinformation videos, we also encourage people and our credible news partners to put up credible sources of information so that people are directed. But the analogy I have here is really the analogy on counter speech. And that principle posits that the best way to counter fake news or bad speech is through more speech, through positive speech, through better speech.
I was taught pala nung elementary kami na to maging mapanuri sa sources namin, to double check and never get information na you can't check from 5 or more sources.
But I think a crucial leg here is all of us here, and including everyone watching on this call, for us to be very critical about the material that we find online. And if we do find pieces of fake news and misinformation, kindly report it to us so we can quickly take action. And I can assure you that we will.
The saddest part of this is actually we're seeing families and communities kind of ripped apart by this. Because if we're not careful, the fabric of society is being pulled apart. The difficult conversation with your uncle at the dinner table is critical. Muting him on Facebook isn't the answer. If we keep ignoring those people who have different beliefs to us, we're not going to get anywhere. But the difficult conversations are going to take time.
Dapat lahat tayo ay makisali sa paglaban sa maling impormasyon na kumakalat sa social media. Huwag natin hayaan na mapuno ang internet ng propaganda. Sikapin natin na kausapin ng maayos ang mga biktima ng maling impormasyon. Pasukin natin ang kanilang mga echo chambers gamit ang katotohanan galing sa mga napagkakatiwalaang batis, kahit gaano ito kahirap gawin. Huwag natin isuko ang social media sa fake news at hayaan na marami pa ang malinlang. 2. It is necessary to express dissent so we don't become complicit. Nararapat na tumutol sa mali para hindi tayo maging kasabwat. Bilang mga mamamayan ng bansa natin, wala tayong utang na loob sa mga nakaupong opisyal ng pamahalaan pag pinagsisilbihan nila ang mga pangangailangan ng taong bayan. Trabaho nila yon. Tungkulin naman natin na bantayan ang mga nakaupo na huwag nilang abusuhin ang kanilang kapangyarihan. At kung maging abusado man ang gobyerno, tungkulin at karapatan din ng mamamayan na tumutol sa kanilang mga ginagawa at panagutin sila. Government abuse can only continue with the people's consent and cooperation. Dissent matters to hold the powerful accountable for their choices and actions. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. When it comes to disinformation, it is even more important to fight lies that come from those in power. Facts are not neutral. Facts take sides. And so must we take the side of the truth. Neutrality in the face of falsehood permits lies to spread freely. We must speak truth to power. Bear in mind that some things are worth disagreeing over, especially when someone tries to mislead the people or deny the truth. 3. We must speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Dapat tayong magsalita para sa mga taong hindi makapagsalita para sa kanilang sarili. Ang katahimikan sa gitna ng kawalan ng hustisya at pang-aapi ay pribilehiyo na hindi binibigay sa lahat. Sa ilan, hindi pwedeng piliin ang manahimik na lang dahil ang mga issue ay hindi lang nangyayari sa kung saan at kung kanino, kundi sa kanila mismo. Pero, madalas ay hindi pinapansin at isinasantabi lang ng mga makapangyarihan ang boses ng maliliit na tao. It is important to lend our voices to the cause of those who are being silenced, those who are the biggest victims of the abuses and atrocities of those in power. Let them know they are not alone. And, when we speak up, we encourage and empower others also to speak. As the author and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel said, we must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence helps the tormentor, never the tormented. Dito sa Pilipinas, ngayon ay panahon ng matinding pag-aalinlangan. Ang tagumpay ni Marcos sa huling halalan ay tagumpay ng maling impormasyon at propaganda. Namubuhay tayo sa panahon na tila hindi na mahalaga ang katotohanan, pero hindi natin pwedeng isuko ang laban. This is not the time for silence. We must choose sides. We must speak out. We must resist. We must stand for truth. Let us continue the fight because we cannot, in good conscience, not fight.